The King and the Poor Boy. A man alone cannot achieve the traversing of the road of the inner path. You should not try to set out alone, for there must be a guide. That which we call a king is the guide, and he whom we call a poor boy is the seeker. It is said that King Mahmud and his army were separated. As he was riding his horse at great speed, he saw a small boy on a riverbank. The child had cast his net into the water, and seemed greatly sad. "My child," said the king, "why are you unhappy? I have never seen anyone in such a state as you." The boy answered, "Your Majesty, I am one of 7 children who have no father. We live with our mother in poverty and without support. I come here every day and cast my net for fish, so that I can have something for that night. Unless I catch a fish during the day, there is nothing at night." "My child," said the king, "would you care for me to help in your work?" He agreed, and King Mahmud threw the net which, through the royal touch, produced 100 fish. It is often thought by those who have not studied widely that metaphysical systems either deny the value of things of the world, or else promise an abundance of material benefits. In Sufism, however, the good things gained are not always figurative nor inevitably literal. This parable by the great Fariduddin Attar, in his Parliament of the Birds, is used in both the literal and symbolic senses. According to the Dervishes, a person may gain material things by the Sufi way, if this is to the advantage of the way as well as to himself. Equally, he will gain transcendental gifts in accordance with his capacity to use them in the right way. The 3 teachers and the muleteers. Such was the repute of Abdul Qadir that mystics of all persuasions used to throng to his reception hall, and the utmost decorum and consideration for the traditional manners uniformly prevailed. These pious men arranged themselves in order of precedence, of age, and according to the repute which their teachers had enjoyed, and their own precedence in their own communities. Yet they vied with one another for the attention of the Sultan of the teachers, Abdul Qadir. His manners were impeccable, and nobody of low intelligence or lack of training was seen at these assemblies. One day, however, the 3 sheikhs of Khorasan, Iraq, and Egypt came to the Dargah, guided by 3 illiterate muleteers. Their journey from Mecca, where they had been on a pilgrimage, had been plagued by the inelegance and caperings of these men. When they saw the assembly of the sheikh, they were made as happy to think of their release from their companions as they were by their desire to glimpse the great sheikh. Contrary to the usual practice, the sheikh came out to meet them. No sign passed between him and the muleteers. Later that night, however, finding their way to their quarters, the 3 sheikhs glimpsed by accident the sheikh saying good night to the muleteers. As they respectfully left his room, he kissed their hands. The sheikhs were astonished, and realized that these 3, and not they, were hidden sheikhs of the Dervishes. They followed the muleteers and tried to start a conversation. But the chief muleteer only said, "Get back to your prayers and mumblings, sheikhs, with your Sufism and your search for truth which has plagued us during 36 days' travel. We are simple muleteers, and want nothing of that." Thus is the difference between the hidden Sufis and the superficial ones. The Jewish Encyclopedia and such authorities upon the Hasidic mystics as Martin Buber have noted the affinity between this school and the Spanish Sufis, as far as chronology and similarity of teaching is concerned. This tale, attributed to the Sufi Abdul Qadir of Gilan, 1077 to 1166, is also found ascribed to the life of Hasid Rabbi Elimelech, who died in 1809. Abdul Qadir, known as King, as also was Elimelech, was the founder of the Qadiri order of Dervishes. Bayazid and the Selfish Man. One day a man reproached Bayazid, the great mystic of the 9th century, saying that he had fasted and prayed and so on for 30 years, and not found the joy which Bayazid described. Bayazid told him that he might continue for 300 years and still not find it. "How is that?" asked the would-be illuminate. "Because your vanity is a barrier to you." "Tell me the remedy." "The remedy is one which you cannot take." "Tell me nevertheless." Bayazid said, "You must go to the barber and have your respectable beard shaved. Remove all your clothes and put a girdle around yourself. Fill a nosebag with walnuts and suspend it from your neck. Go to the marketplace and call out, 'A walnut will I give to any boy who will strike me on the back of the neck.' Then continue on to the justices' sessions so that they may see you." "But I cannot do that. Please tell me something else that would do as well." "This is the first move, and the only one," said Bayazid. "But I had already told you that you would not do it. So you cannot be cured." El-Ghazali, in his Alchemy of Happiness, seeks with this parable to emphasize his repeated argument that some people, however sincere in seeking truth they may appear to themselves, or even to other people, may in fact be motivated by vanity or self-seeking, which imposes a complete barrier to their learning. The people who attain. Imam el-Ghazali relates a tradition from the life of Issa ibn Maryam. Issa one day saw some people sitting miserably on a wall by the roadside. He asked, "What is your affliction?" They said, "We have become like this through our fear of hell." He went on his way, and saw a number of people grouped disconsolately in various postures by the wayside. He said, "What is your affliction?" They said, "Desire for paradise has made us like this." He went on his way, until he came to a third group of people. They looked like people who had endured much, but their faces shone with joy. Issa asked them, "What has made you like this?" They answered, "The spirit of truth. We have seen reality, and this has made us oblivious of lesser goals." Issa said, "These are the people who attain. On the day of accounting, these are they who will be in the presence of God." Those who believe that spiritual advancement depends upon the cultivation of reward and punishment themes alone have often been surprised by this Sufi tradition about Jesus. Sufis say that only certain people benefit through powerful dwelling upon gain or loss, and that this, in turn, may constitute only a part of anyone's experiences. Those who have studied the methods and effects of conditioning and indoctrination may feel themselves inclined to agree with them. Formal religionists, of course, do not in many faiths admit that the simple alternatives of good, bad, tension, relaxation, reward, punishment are only parts of a greater system of self-realization. Wayfarer, strangeness, and save time. 3 dervishes met on a lonely road. The first was called Wayfarer, because he always went by the longest route anywhere, due to his respect for tradition. The second was known as Strangeness, because nothing seemed strange to him, though most things he did or even noticed seemed strange to others. The third was named Save Time, because he always thought he could save time, though his ways were often the longest of all. They became travelling companions, but before long they parted. This was because Wayfarer soon noticed a landmark of which he had heard, and insisted upon taking the road indicated by it. It only led to a ruined city inhabited by lions, because the flourishing metropolis of which he had heard had perished hundreds of years before. He was eaten by the lions, almost in a gulp. A day or two later, Save Time decided to find a shorter way, and fell into a quicksand while trying to cut across country. It was the kind of quicksand which is not dangerous, but it takes months to get out of it. Strangeness went on alone. Soon he met a man who said to him, "Dervish, the road is barred ahead because there is a caravanserai inhabited at night by all the wild beasts of the jungle." "What do they do during the day?" asked Strangeness. "I suppose they hunt during the day," said the man. "Very well. I shall sleep there during the day and stay awake at night," said Strangeness. He approached the caravanserai during daylight, and sure enough, he saw there the tracks of numerous animals. He had time to sleep. At nightfall he awoke and hid himself to find out why the animals came there. Presently they all arrived, led by the lion, their king. One by one they saluted the lion, and told him tales of things which were known to them and unknown to the human race. In this way, from his concealment, the dervish learned that no distance away there was a cavern full of jewels, the treasure of the Karatash, the fabled black stone. One of the animals told how in that very caravanserai there was a rat who guarded a treasure of gold pieces, which he could neither spend nor bear to part with, which he brought out at dawn. A third animal explained how a king's daughter might be healed of a madness which had seized her. This was the strangest story of all, and even Strangeness himself could hardly believe it. In the next valley was a sheepdog which guarded a large flock. The hair from behind its ears would cure the princess, and nothing less would do. But since no man knew either the remedy or the princess who was soon to be stricken with this malady, he learned, there was no hope of the knowledge being of any use. Just before dawn the animals dispersed, and Strangeness waited for the rat to appear. Sure enough, it came into the middle of the floor, rolling a golden piece. When it had brought the whole hoard out and was counting the pieces, the dervish stepped out of his place of concealment and took the lot. Then he made his way to the cavern of Karatash and saw the treasure. From there he found the dog and plucked hair from behind its ears. Then he set off on his travels again. The dervish Strangeness, following strange signs which nobody else would look for, found himself at length at the uttermost confines of the empire. Entering a strange and quite unfamiliar kingdom, he saw that people were hurrying about with a preoccupied air. He asked them what ailed them. They explained that the daughter of their king had just been stricken with a strange disease, and that nobody could cure her. Strangeness made his way at once to the palace. "If you cure my daughter," said the king, "you will have half my kingdom, and the rest when I die. If you fail, I shall impale you upon the loftiest minaret." Strangeness accepted the conditions, and the princess was brought to him. He held the sheepdog's hair in front of her, and immediately she was healed. And this was how Strangeness became a royal prince, and taught his ways to the many respectful people who flocked to learn from him. One day, however, he was walking in disguise, as was his custom, when he ran into the dervish Save Time, who at first did not recognize him, partly because he was talking all the time and could not spare a moment to identify his old friend. Strangeness, therefore, merely guided Save-Time into the palace and waited for him to ask questions. Save-Time said, "How did all this happen? Tell me all, but tell me quickly." Strangeness told him, but he could see that Save-Time was not taking in the details. He was too impatient. In no time at all, Save-Time said, "I must return there and learn what the animals have to say, so that I can follow the same path as you." "I do not advise it," said Strangeness, "for you have to learn to interest yourself in time and in strange signs first." "Nonsense," said Save-Time, and he was off in a trice, waiting only to borrow 100 gold pieces for the journey from his fellow dervish. When he got to the caravanserai, Save-Time found that it was night. Reluctant to wait until the morning to conceal himself from the animals, he walked straight into the main hall, where the lion and tiger immediately leaped on him and tore him limb from limb. As for Strangeness, he lived happily ever after. Found in a Dervish manuscript called Kitab-i-Amudarya, the Book of the River Oxus, an annotation makes this tale one of the teaching stories of Uwais al-Khani, originator of the Uwaisi or solitary dervishes. The theme is that impatience causes one to overlook essential qualities of a situation. Timur Aga and the Speech of Animals. There was once a Turk called Timur Aga, who searched town and city, village and country for anyone who could teach him the speech of animals and birds. Everywhere he went he made this enquiry, because he knew that the great Najmuddin Kubra had had this power, and he sought one of his lineal disciples in order to profit by this strange law, the law of Solomon. Finally, because he had cultivated the qualities of manliness and generosity, he saved the life of a frail old dervish who was hanging from the webs of a mountain rope bridge, and who said to him, "My son, I am Behuddin the dervish, and I have read your mind. From henceforward you will know the speech of animals." Timur promised never to confide the secret to another. Timur Aga hastened home to his farm. Soon he was able to put his new power to use. An ox and a donkey were talking in their own manner. The ox said, "I have to pull a plough, and you only have to go to market. You must be cleverer than I. Advise me of a way out of this." "All you have to do," said the crafty donkey, "is to lie down and pretend that you have a terrible stomachache. Then the farmer will look after you, because you are a valuable animal. He will allow you to rest and have better food." But of course they had been overheard. Timur, when the ox lay down, said in a loud voice, "I shall send that ox to the butcher tonight unless it is better in half an hour." And so it was, very much better. This made Timur laugh, and his wife, who had a curious and sulky disposition, insisted on knowing why he was laughing. Mindful of his promise, he refused to tell her. The next day they went to market with the farmer walking, his wife sitting on the donkey, and the baby donkey walking behind. The small donkey brayed, and Timur realized that it was saying to its mother, "I cannot walk farther. Let me get on your back." The mother answered, in donkey talk, "I am carrying the farmer's wife, and we are only animals. This is our fate. There is nothing that I can do for you, my child." Timur at once made his wife get down from the donkey to allow it to rest. They stopped under a tree. The wife was furious, but Timur just said, "I think that it is time to rest." The donkey said to herself, This man knows our language. He must have heard me talking to the ox, and this is why he threatened to send it to the butcher. But he did nothing to me, and has in fact repaid intrigue with kindness." She brayed, "Thank you, master." Timur laughed at the secret which he had, but his wife was furious. "I think that you know something about the way these animals are talking," she said. "Whoever heard of an animal talking?" asked Timur. When they got home, he bedded the ox down in fresh straw which they had bought, and it said, "You are being harassed by your wife, and your secret will at this rate soon be out. If you only realized it, poor man, you could make her behave and keep yourself safe merely by threatening her with a beating with a stick no thicker than your little finger." Thus it is, thought Timur, that this ox, whom I threatened with a slaughterhouse, thinks of my welfare. So he went to his wife and took up a small stick and said, "Will you behave? Will you stop asking me questions even when I so much as laugh?" She was thoroughly alarmed, for he had never spoken like that to her before. And he never had to tell her, and thus was preserved from the awful fate which awaits those who give away secrets to others who are not ready to receive them. Timur Aga has, in his folklore, the reputation of being able to perceive significance in things which are apparently unimportant. This story is said to confer baraka, blessings, upon the teller and the hearer, and hence is popular in the Balkans and the Near East. Many Sufic stories are disguised as fairy tales. This story is attributed, in an earlier form, to Abu Ishaq Chishti, 10th century leader of the singing Dervishes.